Chicka-dun.
Chestnars. We just did the Chestnars,
No more Chestnars.
but this is another Christmas episode, so we should do something.
This is the real Christmas episode.
right. This is the Christmas episode.
the Christmas
Guys,
episode.
welcome to Milk and Cookies. The Milk and Cookies. Milk
and
and
Pookies.
Pookies. Guys, we are your Pookies.
Milk and Pookies.
We are your Pookie Bears this
These are your
episode.
Pookies. These are not cookies. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen. This is episode
We've been
number
16.
16.
Episode number 16 of the Milk and Cookies podcast.
Yes. Wait, where's my phone? I've lost it. Guys, if you know me, you know that I can't live without my phone. So I'm gonna have to ruin this whole episode to look for it.
Oh, my
Daniel will entertain you while he tells you what we're gonna do this episode.
This is all happening at a improper moment. This episode, we will be discussing a number of things. 3 of the main things. I'm realizing my hair is just ridiculous right now, but that's okay. 3 of the things we'll be discussing. Because I still like to host my episodes with the science, art, and the internet.
It was in the hole.
Concept.
It was in the couch hole.
Couch hole.
Yes.
We'll be discussing, in the area of science, we will be discussing conspiracy theories. Specifically, the theory whether or not we landed on the moon.
Yes.
Art, I was thinking we could talk about comic book art and whether or not it's gotten better, as we've gotten more. I think most people would say not, but anyway, we can discuss that. And then the internet, we were going to go and talk about some of our favorite podcasts and why we like them, and maybe how we've drawn kind of inspiration from them in our own podcast, and
Yes.
where we want to do that more or
Yes.
less. I don't know.
And which was my idea, but
We didn't have time.
I'll let him take the credit. Well, I guess I'm not because I just said it was.
You just took it back. No, it's okay. I was originally going to say something about something else. So
Oh, wait, guys.
this is a better.
Pretend these were here the whole time. Pretend these were here the
Christmas.
Okay. Chestnurs.
We were also just doing some accents, but this episode may be a little shorter.
No, don't even say that because then it's not gonna be. Look,
3
it's
hours.
whatever you look. Go put your mouse on the timeline and see how long it is because you're in the future.
You know, we don't. Do you want to dive right in?
Yes.
Do we have any updates? Anything else we need to talk about?
Not necessarily. No. We don't.
We had a
Christmas.
We had a long chat. Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas. as
Merry
we say in
Christmas,
England.
everybody.
We say
Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Sexy Christmas, whatever kind of Christmas you want to have. I
It's up
hope
to
that
you,
you're
homie.
having it right now.
Yeah, and I hope it's coming.
Sorry, the Sexy Christmas, something's coming.
So to begin, conspiracy theories. We were just discussing this.
Yeah.
I recently re-saw the video where Neil deGrasse kneeling in the grass Tyson.
Neil deGrasse
Kneeling in the grass, praying to God,
Tyson.
He was discussing how
Who wins, him or Mike Tyson in a fight? Just kidding. Well, that's the next topic.
It depends if they have superpowers or not.
Oh, a callback to the last episode.
But he was discussing 2 things. One, the importance of us going to the moon, because he says that we didn't discover the moon, we discovered Earth for the first time, which is a beautiful
Oh,
sentiment.
yeah.
Because we for the first time we got to go somewhere and turn around and see the Earth,
Yeah.
which is cool.
That's great.
The second thing he said, I think somebody asked him like whether it was possible for the moon landing to be faked, and he had a whole joke about how they went to Hollywood and they said we want to fake the moon landing because we want to make the Russians think that we made it first, and so we're going to make it a whole production and da 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 da. So the Hollywood executives go away, they try and they're planning and they figure it out, and they come back to NASA and they say, you know what, we've decided to just film on site, which is haha so funny.
Because it ends up being easier.
Because it ends up being easier to just go to the moon. I am one who believes that most conspiracy theories, particularly about the government, are not generally true for one very specific reason.
Okay.
When you have so many people working in a place, it's so hard to keep secrets. Like even like little secrets, like it just always get leaked. Somebody wants some kind of like fame or
But they will
notice.
tell you
But
the conspiracy theorists will tell you, well, hey, we have this person, this person, this person who did leak, and it's some like crazy guy who was.
but
like,
then they'll be
oh,
like completely unrelated, like or like very marginally related. Like I'm talking about big hitters will accidentally release things or say things like. A lot of these, like the moon landing, the conspiracy is enormous. It requires so many people to continue to be lying about it to this day.
Right.
And I think it just gets to the point where I'm like, it's hard for me to believe that kind of a thing could be a conspiracy theory. I will say though, I don't know. No, it's all hard. What do you think?
I think that I think that we did go to the moon.
Yeah.
In the 60s, whenever it was.
Well, you can literally shine a laser because they left a
1960.
thing that lets you bounce lasers back off of it, right?
I think so.
It's
I'm
like
not sure.
still there. So if you
Well,
have
either way, you can see the freaking the base of the lunar lander or whatever
where it, like,
on the moon. It's still there. They left it there, the base of it, because that like it holds the fuel or whatever.
oh
Did you know that copper with like thing covered in like copper foil?
yeah,
Yeah, that's just
it's
it.
just that.
Yeah,
Bro.
and I'm pretty sure you can see it. I mean, now you can. But somebody might say, well, yeah, they put it there after the fact. Because I think even most moon conspiracy theorists, people will say, well, we've been to the moon since then. But the very first one was just like, it was just all a ruse to prove, to beat the Russians at the space race.
Yeah.
It's like,
Which is crazy. I mean, it's not crazy. Like I get that, but at the same time, I think it's always in those moments of like dire need that the most innovation happens. It's like
yeah,
always
war.
the wars,
Yeah.
like where you get like all of this incredible technology and
Yeah.
it's good and bad, but like it would be the same. The Cold War is what pushed people, you know, and it's like it's the same thing. It's war pushing people to innovate, and so I think I don't know. It is kind of crazy that we made it up there. Though.
It seems far-fetched that it would have been faked. I mean, when I was a kid, I watched some documentary about it, and I was like, whoa, it was fake. Because you see that stuff about, like, the crosshairs of the camera being, like, behind an object, or something. Like, stuff like that, where you might say, they kind of just look dark. People say, there's no stars in the sky, because the camera wasn't, the exposure wasn't set, because stars are so dim compared to, like, the moon is so bright because the sun's shining on it. That the camera, you have to like I just did, set the exposure to actually see what you want to
they're
see.
not in the grand scheme of things. They basically haven't gotten any closer to the stars. So I bet those people are like, oh well, they're further out in
way out in
space, so they
space.
need to be able to see.
Oh
the
no,
stars.
you certainly haven't gotten
You've
closer.
made no.
But the moon
progress.
is so bright; it's like white,
Yeah.
and the astronauts are wearing white. So you have to like all that stuff's gonna be so bright that to expose, so that that's not all like way too bright.
Their camera settings.
You have to expose way down. Yeah. Like right now, I have like a really high exposure because it was a pretty dark room. It's nighttime, which we don't usually film during the nighttime. But I have to have my ISO's at 800. I have to have super low shutter speed. The lower the shutter speed, slower the shutter opens and closes to let more light in each time. You lose quality that way, and you get more motion blur. But you're able to get more light to actually have an image.
Yeah.
Whereas if I had this set to have the maximum resolution and maximum like picture quality, let's say, this would be way too dark. Like all these shadows would just be black. Like my sweater already is pretty much black, I think. And
yeah, I'm noticing that even the tiny creases that make me look all
right,
chonky are like super obvious. I'm gonna sit like this.
because you need a lot of light. Like that's why you go outside during like in movie studios, they have these giant bright lights. If you get your picture taken for picture day, giant bright like softbox light, because you need so much light to get like a good picture quality. And there's too much light on the moon, to where
it would be
the
hard
opposite.
to see.
It's so bright
out. Yeah.
You have to have a really, only let a tiny bit of light in to have like a reasonable quality of the stars. Anyways, I just went way too deep into that.
So
it doesn't seem none of the arguments. The arguments were convincing when I was a little kid. Now that I have a brain, I'm like, what would you? It seems pointless to have tried to fake that.
Yeah.
And maybe it wouldn't have been pointless, but even if they did it, there doesn't seem to be any evidence.
It's not plausible that they could have done it. That's the thing.
I don't think so.
With the technology of the time, and even I remember seeing like a BuzzFeed video about it, but it was even the direction of the light is so difficult to replicate on Earth because of the way that the moon is
in parallel
comparison to the sun, right?
All the rays are all the light rays are parallel. The sun is so big that it's like a wall of light coming straight. Whereas if you use a studio light, this kind of light, any light it's like radiating out like this. So if I'm here and I have something here, and the light from like my shadow, you can see my shadow on your leg. Yeah. It's bigger than my hand, because the light's like a cone.
Yeah.
So it's bigger here. The only way to get a shadow that's the exact same size as the object, no matter where the object is to have parallel light rays, which only come from the sun. Maybe I think you can make like a giant light with like a special like mirror thing on it that does that.
Yeah. But at the time they didn't have that technology.
Probably not. And even if they did, you couldn't like get one like big enough or bright enough.
And it almost would have required the same level of innovation as was required to actually get to the moon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like they would have had to film it outside in the sun, basically. But where are you going to film something outside with bright sunlight, but the sky is just black, and you have like these white sandy rocks in every direction, like the desert, and then they didn't have CGI, they didn't have anything. Like it seems totally impossible to have gotten that at the time. Yeah.
What about any other conspiracy theories that you do believe in? Are there any?
I don't really believe in any conspiracy theories.
I think generally it's very hard for me to believe that all of these people were in cahoots, and they I could see where I don't know. Well, like I could see where here's an interesting one. Like the JFK assassination.
Yep.
With him being such a divisive person, and like learning more about politics today, even people within your own party might want to off you. Like you might not have, and so the idea that like the government around JFK planned for him to be executed, basically. Yeah. I'm like, it's not a completely implausible. There's a motive, right? There's a potential, and it wouldn't have required quite so big of a group of people. It just required a smaller group of people to decide, like, we want this to happen. Right. Whereas with the moon landing, it's like multiple different countries said that they saw it, right? Like other scientists saw it.
We didn't. We weren't alive. I guess my dad watched it on TV, but people were standing there when the rocket went up into space.
Yeah.
Like, so they would have had to. They had COC. They had to launch a rocket into space.
Yeah.
And then what? It just crashes, and then they film somewhere else, like they're on the moon.
Like live, like there was perfectly timed.
Yeah, there was a crowd watched. Oh, here's the rocket. We blast them into space.
But then also, like other scientists in other countries verified, like with telescopes, that there was something on the moon, right? Like that.
I think so, yeah.
And so I think that those kind of things are like. But whereas with the JFK assassination, you just need a small group of people to create this like conspiracy.
Yeah, that stuff's different.
Yeah,
because
I could see that happening.
Inevitably, some political
even 9/11
meddling
is like. All it takes is a small group of people within the government to open up some doorways, like to open up some like, I don't know, checks in the airport security. I don't know how you do it, but you just make some calls and suddenly it's happening, and it is maybe an inside job.
Yeah, I think it's more of a blurry line than it seems as far as what is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And then also what.
Because the whole big there's this Illuminati, this massive group of all these people, and it's like at a point I just think it's so hard to keep a secret. But on like a micro level, small groups of people doing bad things within a larger organization, absolutely, I think that happens all the time.
Yeah, like people banding together to do some common interests that they have,
and like under the surface, and
yeah, like things. Obviously, we had Watergate. Or things like that.
Even the Trump assassination was really weird. When he was shot at by that kid, and it was like clear that they hadn't really done they hadn't done a lot of the checks they probably should have, and and then even after the fact, when they went to this guy's house, it was like completely scrubbed, like professionally scrubbed, and it was like there was no evidence of him living there, and it was just very strange. And then they didn't release the like biopsy or something after it. Like all sorts of weird stuff happened, where I'm like, is this just for the public interest, or is this some small group of people trying to create problems?
I think like weird, shady government stuff does happen inevitably, but I don't know that it's so clear that that's is it people when people talk about conspiracy theories, I think they mean like some like global elite thing.
Yeah.
Even it starts to get kind of like anti-Semitic with like the cabal, global cabal.
You mentioned that the other episode. What is that? I don't know what that is.
It's the idea that there's like a select group of like super rich Jews who control everything.
Huh. I didn't know about that theory.
Because people, I mean, there's a lot of like Jewish like CEOs and like stockholders or like people, owners of businesses, like that's the whole thing with Kanye West, is that he started going all crazy and anti-Semitic and was talking about all the record labels are owned by Jews, like at the very top. So he thinks it's some kind of Jewish. So it's like,
whoa,
a lot of Jews tend to be very rich, and they get to the top of.
Well, there are some very rich Jews. I think is maybe what you meant to say.
That's right, exactly, because then there's poor Jews as well, inevitably. That's the thing, yeah.
But I think you could say the same about a lot of things, right?
Like, there's like the Rothschilds, and like all these old families where generation after generation they carry down all this wealth.
Yeah.
And like you get these power structures set up where people feel like they're kind of pulling the strings.
And outside of the like law.
Yeah, yeah. Which I don't know. Like inevitably these things like they're inspired by some type of truth, as far as like, you know, there are people like there's like BlackRock. You know about that?
Yes, that owns all of them.
We maybe shouldn't even talk about this because BlackRock's watching us. But yeah, like this giant corporation.
Just like red lasers, like.
This is giant corporation that's like
owns everything.
That literally owns everything. Yeah.
Well, they're like major stakeholders in most big companies.
So inevitably, they're pulling some strings.
Yeah.
Who know? But are they like satanic and they're eating children and like because that's where a lot of this goes. As people will have conspiracy theories,
and then it gets stupid.
It'll become like Hillary Clinton is like evil and she like killed these people and it's like okay maybe something like that happened, and she eats babies and she's a lizard person. Like it keeps going. Like, it's inflation.
Mark Zuckerberg insanity. It's not that he has like autism. It's that he's just like
he's a lizard.
He's a lizard. It's like
oh okay. That's why I'm hesitant to jump on board with any conspiracy theory because it all is just a slippery slope into just absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that I don't think that shady stuff happens like under the surface. Like inevitably it does.
Yeah,
to some degree. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
You sure?
Absolutely. All right. Moving on. Comic book art.
Ooh.
Shall I whip out some of these comic books that I bought the other day? I went to a charity shop. What would you call it here? Thrift store. And we call them charity shops in England, or second-hand stores. We sometimes call that. There's a good joke. Why did the skeleton cross the road?
Because he needed a second hand.
To get to the second-hand store. You would only work in England though.
But why?
He was missing one, I guess.
Well, that's not implied. Well,
maybe the joke is why did the man with one hand cross the road?
To get to the second hands.
Yeah, that would be it. Anyway, I went, and there were just a bunch of these Excalibur comics, and most of them are from like back in the day, from like the 80s.
Yeah.
They're very nice.
I love that stuff.
X-Men offshoots. You can kind of. Some of them are weird. Like some of the covers are kind of crazy, but I like them.
Wow, these are mint edition.
No, I realized when I was a kid, I saved up like $50.
We've got Captain Britain on there.
Look at this lady.
We've got, that's insane. Who is that?
I don't know. I think she's the villain.
We've got this lady. Freaking Ursula.
Yeah, it looks like that.
From Little Mermaid. We've got...
So look at these old, like, almost newspaper, like, colored newspaper
Phoenix,
style.
The Dark Phoenix, I guess.
How cool is that?
And we've got a bunch of lizard people. Oh, we were just talking about the lizard people.
Yeah,
I love this. I love this stuff. I love this art style.
So this is like the older style. It's like the 80s and 90s of comics. Excalibur. Okay, I need to explain this quickly because I think it's actually a hilarious concept. I believe, maybe not Excalibur itself, but there's one of these characters. I think it's this guy, the main guy. He is not Captain Britain. He's Crusader X.
Oh.
But he and Crusader
X...
fighting.
The two of them are fighting on one of these.
Yes. Crusader X and Captain Britain are the same.
Okay.
I believe. They're just from different worlds, as Marvel does, different universes, right? Okay. But Crusader X is from a universe where the US does not win
the Revolutionary War.
And so England took over the whole world.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I love that. What a great theory. Or what a great concept to be like the whole world just comes under the British rule forever. And so we're in the modern day, but Britain just rules everything still.
That's absolutely insane. And then he's the embodiment of that?
Apparently they're from different timelines where different things happen. But yeah, I love this style. I love the idea of like collecting these. The problem is there's hundreds of just Excalibur comics.
Yeah.
And so even like these cost me $3 each. Like I'd end up spending a lot of a bit of money getting all of them.
That's why a lot like they're so short and they make so many of them. I feel like a lot of them end up being like filler.
Yes.
Like the vast majority of them have.
It's like you've seen One Piece, right?
Yeah.
It's like most
it's
episodes
exactly like
of
it's like One Piece, or it's like any of these animes that go on for like way too long.
It's just like
because they just get into this rhythm of just episode after episode after episode or issue after issue.
And so you get those like what do you call them? Those recurring like things that happen that become super cheesy because you see them all the time because they just even every season there's a moment that is the same as like the last season, right? It's like doing a Christmas episode of like a sitcom. It's like there's always a Christmas episode every season.
What's worse than sitcoms is like soap operas that go on for like 100 seasons.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's the equivalent of that.
And you always get to that same like bit that it's like, oh, you've done this a billion times.
I much rather quality over quantity. I love a good show or a good like comic book series or something that only has like a couple.
That's what I was hoping the Joker was going to be. The Joker movie. I thought it was just going to be one excellent movie. That was it. And then they released the second one, and it was
you didn't like it?
I mean,
we should talk about that. I saw it.
It was.
I liked it.
Why did you like it? Because most people think I didn't think the story was very good at
all. Okay.
I think if the only way that movie is good, in my opinion, is if the whole point is that it's like aimed at us, the message of like he's just a guy, he's not the Joker, and like the whole message is like don't idolize random people or make symbols out of people because they will eventually fall.
Okay. Huge spoilers.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Don't. No. I'm about to see the huge spoilers. If you haven't watched the Joker 2, Electric Boogaloo, click away. But
the ending was so
he
good.
dies.
Yeah.
Arthur Fleck, the Joker, dies. But here's why. One of the reasons I liked it is because ever since the first movie, I've been thinking, like, this can't be like Batman's Joker. No. Because we see Batman in the first Joker movie, well, Bruce Wayne, as a child. But Arthur Fleck is already like 60, like 50 or something.
Yeah. And
this is a little kid, so like it makes no sense for him to grow up like 20 years later.
Yeah.
And then they have like this rivalry between Batman and the Joker. And I think we're in the 70s, right? And we expect Batman to be around like later than that.
Okay.
The early 2000s or something. I mean, I guess he could be around in any era, but it just I was always thinking this isn't Batman's Joker. Like something's up here where there's going to be like some kind of succession of Jokers. Because also in one of the more recent Batman comics or the Justice League comics, Batman sits on like the chair of, I forgot what it's called. There's this throne that like it knows everything basically. You sit down, you ask it any question, and it tells you. And Batman sits on it and asks who's the Joker is. He's like, who's the Joker's real identity? And the chair says something like, which one? There's 3 of them. And then it pulls up like this profile of like 3 different Jokers. Which Batman, I don't know if this version of Batman did or didn't realize he's been fighting like 3 different Jokers the whole time. But but you don't, as the reader, I don't think you find out who they are. But I guess Batman does, but you don't see it. But there's always this idea of there's been different Jokers. Like there's not just Joker is like an idea.
Yes.
It's not one man.
Which definitely this film.
Film Joker 2 is like that's like the whole point of it because he dies at the end and this other random guy in the prison stabs him, and then he stabs him and then like starts cutting the smile lines into his own face.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Yeah.
At the end, he's like he's like all blurry because you're focused on Joker dying, but in the background he's like ah! And he's like laughing. And he's like cutting the like the Heath Ledger.
He's becoming
He's becoming the Joker. I'm assuming like the Batman Joker, or not, or he's just another one and there's a bunch of them. But I liked how it makes sense like DC wise and Batman wise.
Yeah, but that's like like the actual movie. I feel like was just a Batman.
You're right. Okay, the movie. So I thought the cinematography and everything like creativity wise, like setting aside the writing and everything else that happened, like the visual aspect of the movie was amazing. Like I thought it looked. There's so many scenes that looked amazing.
Yeah, and I think
that's what
even this idea of him like having these psychotic episodes where he thinks he's singing and like
I
this
like
that. I think people were like annoyed because they didn't like his voice or something, and I'm like, he wasn't bad. He's also meant to just be a normal guy. It's not meant to be like a Broadway.
But in his mind it is, yeah.
He thinks, and it's the same as his comedy, right? Yeah. In the first movie, he thinks he's so funny, but he's not. He's terrible. And if in that movie people came out and were like, but he just wasn't a good comedian, you'd be like,
that's the whole point.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So I think in the same way, he's not very good at singing, and that's kind of the whole point, which is okay. I just felt like it was just, the story was just very odd. The flow of it was very odd. Harley Quinn was pretty cool. I like the idea of her being like pretending to be an inmate to get close to him. That's cool.
I like that.
That was a cool.
I thought Lady Gaga was great.
An excellent Harley Quinn. Yeah. But then that's odd because then she is actually, what's her name? Quinn, like Harley Quinn. Like what's her? Like she's actually Harley Quinn. If he's not if the other guy isn't Batman's Joker, then she can't also be his Harley Quinn, but she is.
I think she is. She's young. She's a lot younger than him, and
I think she just keeps following around the Joker.
Yeah, I think she's. This is the whole thing, is because she like breaks up with him when she realizes that he's not the Joker. When he gives this whole speech about just being a normal guy and being Arthur Fleck and not being the Joker.
Yeah.
That's me. She breaks up with him and she's like, I can't be with you, Arthur. I'm sorry, and then she leaves. I don't know if she says I'm sorry, but like that's like the sad point.
Yeah.
But it's because she's in love with this idea of Joker, and he's not Joker. So she's going to go look for whoever the Joker is. And so that's why I think that kind of sets up an interesting idea. I don't necessarily think there needs to be like a whole movie series following that, but just the idea of it.
Yeah, it's cool. Okay.
But
I see the value in it. I just think the
it.
viewing experience, I just came out with and was like,
I think it's really long,
yeah.
And I think a lot more could have happened in the movie that didn't happen. For like the majority of the movie, you're following Arthur through like these kind of long and like boring scenes through the prison and through wherever else.
And then he gets like abused by the gods.
Like,
and it's like really, some of it's unnecessary.
It feels like it's happening at a very slow pace and it's building to something, but then it doesn't build to that much because then he just dies.
Yeah.
So I think that's why people don't like it. But I think I just tend to like stuff that's like more subversive.
You can see the value in
it. And I like the artistic. I think when I watch movies, I'm not thinking how much fun am I having while watching this movie. I'm thinking, what can I take from this?
What's it telling
How does it inspire me to do things that I do?
Yeah.
And the color grading, the cinematography, the way that it's showing mental illness and how it like expresses that through like the music and everything, all of those things were like, I had a good time watching it.
That's cool.
I think, could it have been better? Yes. Could it have like gone through a more exciting storyline and even been like been a lot shorter? Yes. But yeah, I understand all the criticisms of it, but I enjoyed it.
Good. And I think one of the things I just wanted to touch on a little bit is like I think the same thing with like older anime versus more modern anime, where like that's a very good point. Where I think the like style is so beautiful, and we were actually having this conversation on Thanksgiving about music and how people find the old style of music and like with old microphones and they find that comforting because it reminds them of older music that is nostalgic to them, right?
Yep.
And so for that reason, old microphones are very expensive and there's a market for it, and even though in reality it is lower quality, it is less good, it is less clear, something about that is desirable. And I think in the same way with anything like that, old comic books are appealing because they have this nostalgia attached to them from that certain era, but they don't. Modern comics will not have the same pacing errors that these do, where they have all these filler ones, right? Same with modern anime versus old anime. Like, even what's crazy to me, I haven't kept up with One Piece. It's too much. I feel like I can't catch up. I'd have to really knuckle down. But like, I'd hope that newer seasons have better pacing than the old ones do, because the old ones are just many filler episodes. They keep remaking the
old ones.
Well, and there's that now. Well, no, that's happening now, right? Netflix is going to be redoing the older episodes to make them more modern and to follow the same storyline, but to be a bit more fast paced. But that's kind of my point. It's like, I think there's a lot of value in the older comics and the style, and I think it's really cool. But at the same time, something that I don't think I value as much is the newer comics. And actually, the stories they're probably telling are really great. Where some of these stories are kind of like fluff. And like even some of the characters that are coming out now, some of the new Marvel heroes and stuff that I don't even know about are like probably quite interesting.
They are interesting. I think Marvel is just like we need just Marvel and DC. We need to just let them sit and just not do any. Just
maybe they needed to stop.
They need to just like relax. How many movies of the same characters can we see? Like a lot of them are great.
The movies, I agree. I think we need to just stop.
But all of it.
Yeah.
Because even the comics keep rehashing the same.
Yeah.
Every few decades
it's like
they
a
get
new
rebooted.
gender, color, race of like one character.
I think if we just stop with all Marvel and DC stuff for like 20 years, and then Disney or whoever was like, oh, let's do like another DC reboot of all the characters, and be like, oh, this is cool. Remember when we had this?
Yeah.
But like the fact that they just keep doing it, same with Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree.
But
at least Star Wars isn't like recasting. Like it's not like, oh, we're gonna have I guess
they will eventually.
But they kind of did anyway. Like they were like, we're gonna have a new Luke Skywalker, Rey.
Yeah,
she was just
that
a female Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, they even started.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
because it's like Thor. We're gonna have a female Thor. Then we're gonna have Captain America. We're gonna have a black Captain America. We're gonna have, like it's great to have representation, but it does kind of end up feeling like why. And I think I've heard this argument made where it's like, why would you take like the character, like take a character and just change their gender or their race when you could just make a new character that has that gender or race if that's what you wanted to do.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like just make it unique instead of making it.
Well, that's interesting because
I like that.
A lot of the every time they do like it's Thor but it's a woman. Oh, it's Captain America but he's black.
That's warm.
Every time they do stuff like that, I think there's like a weird reaction because people think it's like, oh, the woke left is. But I mean, sure, you can make that argument, sure, but also all these characters have been like the Isaiah, whatever his name is, which is the Black Captain America. He's been around in the comics since like the dawn of Captain America. Like very early on in all these characters, people already were bored of the normal characters, and they're already like, oh, but what if there was another version?
Yeah.
That's been happening in the comics.
That's not. So, but I just think I don't think the whole woke thing. I guess you could, but I think the whole thing is it's just not creative. It's like instead of making the same character with the same powers, but make it like in a different, if we're from a different timeline where they are a woman, it's like, oh no, let's just make a new character who fits this like niche.
I know.
Whatever.
And I think those universes, like there's all these popular universes, are so saturated with characters and things, and it's like, I think we need to just. I think what's gonna happen, not what we need to do, what is going to happen, is just fatigue. I think we're already having multiverse fatigue from like all the different multiverses. I think we're at some point we're going to just be like, okay, we're done with all the pre-existing, what do you call them? Pieces of things.
Media.
All the pre-existing media, new characters, new storylines.
New
everything.
Universes. Get rid of Marvel. Now we have Gomple.
Now we have Prophecy. Okay. But I do want to say a couple things about the art style, which is what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
My favorite comic book art style is like maybe like a decade after this, because this is like 80s. I really like the 90s and early 2000s art, a lot of it.
Yeah.
With like a little bit more defined like inking, like those thick lines and all that stuff. And that's the style of art that I was trying to replicate. Like when I decided that I was going to learn to draw, I got a book that teaches you how to draw graphic novels, like that kind of style. And I got a book that's supposed to teach you how to draw manga.
Yeah.
Manga. Oh, my mistake. Manga. I'm anticipating the controversy. Oh, okay, about the manga. I'm sorry. Okay, manga. Because I really like a lot of the art from those two styles, and I started trying to replicate it. And I feel like drawing this is all with the muscles, right? All this stuff is all human anatomy.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the comic book art, it's like an anatomy chart of male and female anatomy, but not like actual anatomy, like ideal, like insane, which
a lot of them are like it's hypersexual. It's like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Like the women.
But what is it?
Even the men. It's like rippling muscles. It's ridiculous. Like to maintain this physique, you either have to be on the most perfect like serum of like, well, I guess you're a superhero, but you as a normal person to look like that, you'd have to have all the right roids and fat burners and.
But honestly, that's my
crazy
superheroes, and the fact that I like to draw that style and that I like the style of art is what inspires me to try to get my physique where I want it to be. Because every time I draw anybody, a character, I'm like, there's the pecs, there's the shoulders, and there's like this certain like beauty and symmetry that you want with like the narrow waist and the wide shoulders. That now that's just so ingrained into my brain that if I just have to look like that, because if I look in the mirror and I don't look like a superhero, that's a problem.
No, it's not a problem. It's okay. Because that's almost impossible to attain. But you're beautiful.
Well, I think I'm actually, it's like halfway to looking like a superhero.
Good. I'm glad you feel it.
Do you not think that?
I do. I think that.
I have more of like the Spider-Man kind of build, right? Which is more attainable.
Athletic, yeah. Less. Which is much better for combat and for like.
Yeah. I want to be practical. Like I know at what level it would be impractical. Like I'm not trying to get to like 300 pounds lean, like just become a giant mass monster.
No, it's insane. Well, even like 200 pounds, like you start to get to a point where it's like. It is just fatiguing to be that heavy of like, you just...
Oh yeah. Sam Sulek.
Pull-ups.
We love you, Sam.
Become very hard. I love Sam Sulek.
We love you, Sam.
But you are insanely big.
You're huge and you pant a lot. People like to say that he's always panting because he's just out of breath because he's just...
He's not on roids.
Of course he's on roids. But Sam, if you want to sit right here between us and we'll both just give you a little... that would be great. We'll give you a little kiss.
We would love that.
But I think that's
the end of that. Yeah. So, do you want to talk about our podcast, and then we'll maybe kind of keep it a bit of a shorter episode?
Yeah. It's already
pleasure.
It's 35 minutes or so.
It's perfect time. Yeah. So we each have talked. We're going to talk about 3. I only actually really have 3 that I could talk about.
Listen to? Okay.
But you can, if you want to go.
We're going to discuss some of our favorite podcasts, or not even podcasts. I don't listen to that many podcasts.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the nature of podcasts. They're long. You can't listen to that many of them.
Yeah. Which
is like, it means if we're one of the podcasts that you're listening to, wow, that's huge.
Yeah, we feel very honored.
But yeah, we'll just go through we'll each talk about some of the podcasts that we listen to, why we listen to them, and we'll try to use that as an inspiration for what we're going to do with this podcast.
Perfect. We'll go one.
Okay. I hadn't even really put together my list in my mind. I
have one if you want me to.
Well, actually, here's a fun idea. I'm going to pull up my Spotify Wrapped.
Ooh.
Which has the list of my top 5 podcasts.
I literally think I only had 3.
You didn't even listen to any more than that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, these are solid. Okay. Here's one I'm going to bring up my favorite podcast. This is not even, in theory, it's not even like my favorite podcast, but it is the one that I've listened to the most. Are you ready?
Yeah. Where did you find it? Mine's all moving.
I know.
Is it at the end? No.
No, it's one of these earlier ones. Sorry, guys. One moment while we find it'll once the text.
No. What?
It may have been earlier. Yeah, I think that's before a month's. Guys, if you're oh my gosh, we're doing such a bad job of entertaining the people right now. Daniel's looking for his top 5.
Alright, you talk.
Okay. Here's my one. Healthy Gamer GG.
Is that the Dr. K?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dr. K. So I've listened to every single episode, I believe. I'm kind of a fiend for it. But no, I love it. I mean,
I didn't know it was that good. Look, 3. And the third one I didn't even want to talk about.
Okay, don't talk about it. Guys, it's like it's not a podcast of like entertainment, but I actually am entertained by it most of the time.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a help. I've read all of the most famous self-help books.
That's crazy.
And I've listened to this podcast, which tells you everything you need to know about how much help I need for myself. If you don't know what it is, it's like in theory, most of it's supposed to be this guy, Dr. K. I don't actually remember his whole last name, but they call him Dr. K. And he's like a gamer. He used to be like addicted to Dota too.
Oh, of course.
And his life was like in shambles or whatever. And then he became a monk in India and like learned how to meditate and all these things.
Yeah.
And attained nirvana. Probably not, but. And then he returned a changed man. And then he went to Harvard.
Wow.
And became a doctor.
That's kind of.
And now he runs this podcast. Where he
I love that he probably his life was in shambles and he was probably still like 16. Like, and he's just
No, he didn't get into Harvard until he was like 28, I think.
Oh wow, okay.
And he'd applied to. He said he talked about applying to like hundreds of universities and not getting into any of them, and that he was like did pretty badly in high school or something, or I don't even know, something along those
Harvard
lines.
let him in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Once he became a monk. Somehow, I don't know. He has like a whole thing where he'll talk about the story of it, but something along those lines, right?
Crazy.
But he thought that he was like way behind. So his whole thing is he's helping people that are gamers to like get their lives together, and also people that a lot of them are about like stuff like for when you feel behind in life. Because his whole thing was that like he thought he was like way behind, and then all of a sudden he like got it all figured out. So he uses a lot of like spirituality, like Buddhism type stuff. But like more like along the lines of meditation, and things like that. But then he also uses a lot, like he's a doctor as well, so talks about psychology and psychiatry and whatever else, and just how to get your life sorted as far as emotional stuff, relationships,
That's really cool. Yeah. And so, what would you want to take from that and apply to it?
I feel like we actually. Oh, well, we're not doctors and we're not experts on anything.
No.
But I think it would be fun. I like giving people advice. So I think it would be fun if people gave us like, hey,
questions.
Yeah. If they were like, hey, I have this anonymously or not, if you want, I guess. I have this situation.
Yeah.
And what do I do? And we'll like, well, here's what you should do.
I would love to do that. That would be so much fun.
As
if you have a problem and you want
it. Or DM one of us. I don't know. Email us.
We can have you call in to the podcast.
Oh, like that Gecko guy, that green guy.
How fun would that be?
That would be great.
We could get you in. I don't know. We would love to do that. If you have a problem, let us know.
Yeah. I'm not going to claim to be an expert in anything regarding that, but
I think we're good. We have good differing perspectives on things that might help.
We'll give you the double angle assault on whatever your problem is so that you can solve it.
Yes.
That's what I want to take from that. Okay. What's one of your podcasts?
So the top one that I listen to a lot, and this is kind of almost reflecting and parallel to yours, opposite. It's called The Bible Project. It's a podcast. It's these two guys where one of them is like a biblical scholar, and he's like super intelligent guy, knows like the Greek and the Latin, and not the Latin, the Greek and the Hebrew, Aramaic, and he like has his own translation, I guess, of the Bible, where he like redefines some of the words that can be problematic, and they go through different series. So they did a whole series on the Sermon on the Mount, which is a particularly important thing in Matthew.
Classic sermon.
But it's a very interesting thing, and I feel like I was at a point in my life this kind of last year where I had been in like a Christian ministry where I'd been working and my faith was very much a part of my life. And then I went to university and it kind of was less a part of my life. And so to have this podcast where it was just like very accessible, but just gave me a lot of understanding about like the scripture that I claim to be like that I say is like very important to me, I actually knew very little about. And so to have more knowledge was really helpful. But at the same time, they do really awesome YouTube videos where they like animate. They have a team of animators who like animate some of their podcast clips into like. Are
the same guys that do like the whole thing where it's like a giant poster of like a story? Yeah.
That's them. Yeah. So they have a podcast which is where a lot of these posters actually come from. Is before that, and it's great. And their format is really cool, which I kind of would like. Almost like with one of us hosting and one of us not hosting. One of them is very knowledgeable and has studied all of the scriptures.
AKA me.
Yeah, exactly. And the other one is kind of the one who's asking the questions and is almost acting like the audience. Oh, so he's kind of like, you identify with him, where he's like, okay, but I don't understand. It's not like
why would Jonah jump into the water? Or no, why would Jonah not go to the city that God told him to go? And the fish ate him. Wait, Daniel, what kind of fish was this? I mean, it would have to be a huge fish to swallow a man like Jonah. Well, no, actually, Jonah was a very small man. He was only 5'3".
Exactly, but it's not quite like that much of a difference. They obviously have spent a long time doing this together, so they both have knowledge, but it is helpful to have someone you identify with, and then somebody who's answering a lot of the questions, and then they're just good guys, and they have good perspectives on things, and I appreciate them as a Christian.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
To that, I would like to say... No. No, fair. Okay, I'll do one.
Yeah. After you spat on my religion.
Well, not on your religion.
On the Bible Project?
No.
On me?
On you.
Oh.
On you personally.
Oh.
I know. Look, we talked about this beforehand, but Daniel, he's got a spit thing. All right.
the next podcast.
Oh yeah, I actually have to be. If we're only gonna do 3, I have to be a little choosy here. Oh man. Okay. An honorable mention is the Huberman Lab, which I'm not going to talk about because that's too similar to Healthy Gamer, even though they're kind of different. But just to mix it up, I'm going to do the Sweet and Sour podcast with Pokimane and Lily Pichu.
Oh no!
Don't what?
Oh no!
It's a good podcast. I guess I have to explain myself now. Well, okay, so Pokimane started this podcast called Don't Tell Anyone with Don't Tell Anyone with Pokimane. Yeah, and I listened to every single episode.
Nice.
And then it ended.
They live in this state and they live near us.
City.
Yeah.
And we're gonna stalk them.
No. We're gonna put them on to the chat.
Yes, the opposite of that. Or should we cut that out?
No. You're like afraid now.
I'm a little bit afraid.
Your chance is gone. You can never have her now because you joked about stalking her.
Oh. Okay, guys, we'll scoot a little bit. You guys can right here and there.
The Sweet and Sour Milk and Cookies podcast.
Sour milk is a problem.
The Sour Cookie and Sweet Milk podcast.
Sour cookie?
I don't know. It's better than sour milk. Sweet Cookie and Sour Milk podcast.
Sour, either of those things is a problem, I think. Okay, regardless. Look, guys, what am I talking about?
Why do you like the podcast?
I like it. Well, so I like the Pokimane's podcast by herself. I do. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, so Pokimane.
It's comforting to feel like you've got two women talking.
Oh, it's just on the other side. They pan them left and right. Okay, look. That's not the whole reason.
What do you want? How do you want to apply their podcast to?
Wait, I haven't even said anything yet.
You're gonna be the little Asian lady, and I'll be the big
Moroccan lady. Listen. Okay, when it was just Pokimane, I never watched.
You'll be the little Asian lady.
Well, I basically am a little Asian lady at this point. Okay.
Yes.
Pokimane. I never even watched Pokimane that much. Growing up on Twitch, you did.
I've never watched Twitch that much, but I've always liked Pokimane.
But I saw some clips going around of that podcast. When she was talking about like being like a content creator or something and like giving advice to content creators, something along those lines. And I don't even remember what it was, but there was some clip that I was like, oh, I should listen to the full version of that because it sounded like something that might apply to stuff I was doing. I listened to the whole episode and I was like, I don't know, I just really liked it. It is comforting. Her voice is comforting. I should have said that. Oh no!
That's okay.
Yeah,
I find your voice comforting.
Okay, thank you. That fixes it.
It's like familiar.
But there was something about that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the podcast.
That's okay. And
it ended, and I was like, oh, I guess she's not going to do it anymore. And then she was like, oh, actually, she got bored apparently of doing it by herself. So then she rebranded it as the Milk and Sour. The Sweet and Sour podcast with Lily Pichu, who, is another offline TV person who's the girlfriend of Michael Reeves. Michael Reeves is one of my all-time favorite YouTubers.
Legend.
Probably top 3 favorite YouTubers ever, which is saying a lot.
That is saying a lot.
And so that connection was like, oh, that's cool. And I haven't watched Lily Pichu a lot either, but I would just see her in like Michael Reeves' videos here and there. So that was another reason I was like, oh, that's cool, And yeah, the two of them have good chemistry. The topics are, sometimes I get bored of low-key, but sometimes the topics are interesting and funny. And it's something that I compare a lot to this podcast, because they're not talking about anything in particular most of the time, which I feel like kind of ends up.
But then they're like big, like internet personalities. That's the problem.
I know, we're not big internet personalities, but we're about to be. We are, but once this hits the fan, we're going to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why. It's comforting. They're funny. They have good chemistry, nice. and I feel like it's inspirational to this podcast, which is another reason I listen to it.
Cool, nice. All right.
They'll also when it was just Pokimane, she would do a lot of episodes of like advice as well, which I found somewhat
useful. It'd be really fun if we did that. We should do that. I really like one of the ones I've gotten into more recently is I really like the Joe Rogan podcast. I think he's obviously like the number one. Like it's rare. I don't want to be a follower. I don't want to.
Yeah, I followed. I thought about having the Joe Rogan podcast.
But I just think the thing I love most about him is that he seems to talk to people from all different perspectives. Obviously, he has his own slant on things, and like I don't always agree with him. But I think that I really appreciate and enjoy the fact that he will talk to pretty much anybody, and he has some like guests on that you would never think. Like he's had like these like mega stars, and then he'll just have some like little scientist who's like maybe not little, but you know some scientist who's doing a TV show or like something on like TLC, and you're like why? And they actually have something really interesting, and Joe Rogan is the person who gives them efficacy, right? Like without him, no one would watch that podcast. If we bring some random scientist on here, no one's going to watch it because of us. But you bring a random scientist and have them on Joe Rogan, suddenly you get way more people watching because it's Joe Rogan.
Because he brings out a lot of the stuff that people want to hear.
Yeah.
And he brings up interesting topics, and he asks the questions that like he asks questions that like. I mean, he asks questions that like other scientists wouldn't think to ask, because he kind of plays like the role of the everyman. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
And yeah, I agree with you on all of that, because I will very often listen to it. I don't listen to every episode, but any of them that catch my interest as far as the guest, I'll tune in. He's had some great episodes.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I think he's good. He's a good, and he knows how to like, you know, be the person he needs to be in that context.
Yep.
And I think that's an important skill. All right, last ones.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I'm glad you did the Joe. I thought about having that as one of my three, but I didn't. Safety Third. You know that podcast?
You were talking about
the Safety Third podcast. So I watch a lot of like engineering and like science YouTubers.
Yeah.
Even though I'm an idiot and I'm not involved in that stuff.
You used to be more interested in
it. Yeah, I'm interested in it. It's not something that I engage with currently, or like myself. But it's some of my favorite YouTubers are on that podcast. William Osman, Nile Red, he used to be, at the beginning he was always on it, and then he would like pop in and out of it. The Backyard Scientists, and Alan Pan. Okay, I'm glad I remembered all their names so I didn't embarrass myself. These guys are all like, most of them, you've probably heard of some of them or all of them. Most of them, like, they'll like build like wacky contraptions, or they'll try to like invent some ridiculous thing. It's always like, it's like engineering and science and physics or whatever else for the purpose of doing something kind of silly. And Michael Reeves is the same way.
Yeah.
And I just love that stuff. I don't know why. Like all of them, it's not even the things that they make so much as like they all have this type of storytelling.
Yeah.
Like this editing style that I find really great. And it's I watch it because I want to implement that to like maybe music related stuff or whatever else I'm doing, because I feel like it's just such a great way of doing telling stories.
There you go.
But they're also so smart, and it's just like really inspiring in general.
Yeah.
But then in this podcast is all of them coming together and just kind of hanging out. And it's actually like, compared to their videos, it's just like totally directionless, because they just kind of hang out and talk about whatever. But I find a lot of the conversations they have to be really interesting, because it has to do with the stuff that they make in their videos. It has to do with like the sciencey stuff. But then also sometimes they just kind of joke around. Like they're so funny as well, that they'll have sometimes interesting guests on, or sometimes they'll just
And I think that whole thing of like just hanging out is such a good, like, although, and I've heard people say this, like podcasting is obviously meant to be like for other people, but actually just to sit down with your friends and talk about stuff is just a really fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And so I've heard people recommend that you just pretend like you're doing a podcast with your friends, like set up a camera but then never publish it, but just like have that recording somewhere, or even just like, I guess you could pretend, but like have topics that you're going to talk about, because it's very hard in the world that we live in sometimes to really sit down and have those conversations with people.
Oh yeah, this is an exercise in conversation. But that's like almost what we're doing.
Yeah.
But then we just happen to also post it on the internet.
Yeah, even though no one sees it.
Yeah, but that's how I am. Like growing up, I was like making music that my parents didn't like. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
But my parents like forced me to delete all my music off the internet, because they were like, oh, it's like satanic and stuff. And they were like, well, you can make music, just make it and then don't post it. And in my mind, I was like, it just didn't compute. Like there's.
Why wouldn't you?
It seems pointless to make it like that's part of my creative process is to share music with people. Or share whatever I make. We're doing.
We can let.
Yeah. Somebody has arrived.
My wife.
We shall take a break from that conversation for a split moment.
Well, we'll just keep talking.
Yeah, we will take it.
There's one more. Hi.
Hello. Don't worry.
You're going to be in this podcast episode. I thought you were going to be longer.
Oh no.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry.
Awesome.
What was the last thing I said?
Something about...
Oh, yeah.
You just enjoyed it, that podcast, and it's...
No.
Direct
We're talking about, like, if making something without posting it.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so my parents told me to make music and not post it. But it seems like, just to me, it always... If I make something, I make it because I want to share it with people. And, like, getting the feedback, that's, like, part of the whole process. Like, I do make stuff just by myself, but, like, with the intention of, like, bettering my skills to, like, eventually post stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I envy you if it's meaningful to you to just make something and then just do nothing with it and then just keep making something else. Like, that's meaningful to me in terms of, like, I'm eventually going to post some version of that thing.
Yeah.
But still, like, the idea of pretending to do a podcast, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, you'd need to post it.
Because, I like to feel like I'm doing something, like...
I wish we didn't have to do any editing, and then you could just, like, throw it out there. Because that's the bit that gets a bit tiring, is when you have to then, like...
On the long form ones, we don't do a lot. The shorts...
Not a lot, but just, like, color correcting, and then, like, all of that can get a bit, like...
It just takes a moment.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
My final podcast is the Distractable podcast, which is Markiplier's podcast with his friends Bob and Wade. I've been listening to it every once in a while, specifically for our podcast, really, because it's three friends, similar. They usually talk about their lives a lot and what's going on in their lives, and then they play a game. And so the games, like, I've had a few games.
We stole one of their games.
We did.
For one of our episodes.
We straight up did.
Straight away.
And it was not even, we didn't execute it very well. But yeah, I think
we'll do more other
editions
editions of the same.
Their characters are all very interesting.
Wait, did we steal the sound game, like the saying something with the headphones on game from them as well?
No, I think that was just me.
Okay, nice.
Big noggin. No, it was the one about, like, word connections, so going from one word to another.
I have not listened to that podcast, but I love Markiplier. He's another one of my favorite YouTubers.
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. He's, like, in that group, because he's got a TV show on Amazon. You know about
yes, this what's it called? Sleep Beyond Sleep or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just pulled it up on Amazon Prime, and I was like, oh, I should watch this, and I didn't watch it yet.
But he's, like, in the group, he's the one who's, like, the most successful, and has obviously done a lot, but he's very artistic about the whole thing, and just, like, doing art, and whereas Bob and Wade are a bit more, like, chill, normal guys. But, yeah, those are our podcast recommendations, and the ones that we enjoy.
Yeah, that's a good. They are recommendations. Listen to those podcasts.
Yeah, they're all...
Or no, well, listen to those podcasts
if you want
after finishing one episode of our podcast.
Yeah, this is obviously the main one. Yeah,
this should be your podcast priority.
Without a doubt. I think that'll be all for today.
I think it'll be all, guys. Merry Christmas, Merry Chrysler.
We'll probably see you in the new year. So
we're gonna do an episode with, like, the 2025 glasses on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And top hats and money. We're gonna be super rich next year.
That'd be great. By 2025, that'd be lit.
By 2025, we're gonna be so rich.
Crazy rich. Asians.
Leave a comment if you're
rich.
Asian. You know about Crazy Rich Asians?
Yeah, it's a movie. It's a great movie.
It is a good movie. Leave a comment if you're a Crazy Rich Asian and you want to be my sugar mommy.
Okay.
Not his.
I'm mommied up.
But he's he's good to go on that front.
All right. We love you. Stay safe.
Bye. Wait, stay safe. Use protection.
Use protection.
Safe sex.